Good morning, Alex.
Buongiorno.
We have a little studio here to talk about precarization, especially in Europe. And you have been working as an activist with this theme since the change of the millennium, and you were organizing the Euro May Day of 2001. Euro May Day is maybe one of the best known events of precarity that is also known in Finland because it connects to Finland. Can you tell us about these last little bit more than 10 years that you have been in the precarious movement?
Yes, basically started out as a May Day parade in 2001. The idea started in 2000. We had just been wiped out by our beloved social center from the city of Milano that back then was governed by the right. So in January 2000 we were evicted. So in the new place that we squatted, we started a collective called Chain Workers that set to itself to organize a May Day devoted to all the precarious workers of Milano. And of course we had in mind all the young people that were temping, that were interns, that were working part-time in supermarkets, fast food, the press, publishing, and basically every single service sector in the city of Milano. We felt the May Day, the traditional union parade, had lost its significance. Participation was really low. It didn't address the labor problem that we saw of the time, namely precarization for everybody entering the labor force, so the young people. So we started out in 2001, and from the start we had a European drive, so to speak, although the name Euro May Day wasn't used until 2004, because to the first May Day parade we invited two strikers from Paris, two Pizza Hut workers, Ahmed Mabrouki and Claude, who addressed the crowd, tous ensemble contre la précarité. So that was the end of the first May Day. It was a local success. People took notice, and people were more and more attracted to the collective, and you know, so a small action started being done in call centers, in supermarkets, and once we shut down a whole mall, and so on, it went on TV and so on, and so like the reputation of it grew, and as well as the numbers to the parade. By 2003, already was larger than the union demo, and it attracted all sectors of labor, precarious municipal employees, precarious Scala workers, precarious call center operators, precarious nursery school teachers, and so on. So, and the whole of Lombardy, the region where Milano is set, where the May Day was launched, took part, I mean, from other cities and stuff. So after that, like, I went to the National Disobbedienti Assembly, which back then still existed, and I said, look, I mean, I don't know what's your analysis of what's happening, but fuck, I mean, this thing in Milano is driving people to protest, it's addressing a significant issue, and political parties and unions are putting down the significance and relevance of the condition, the worsening condition for young precarious workers, and it attracts a lot of different souls of the radical left, centri sociali, unions, radical organizations, associations, women collectives, immigrant collectives, queer collectives. So it was critical mass, that is the bike activists, bicycle activists. so they said, okay, fuck, we'll take part in it. And that was like a bit of a gamble, in the sense that since January the movement had never been united in one thing. And so like May Day 2004, which was done together with Barcelona, was the first Euro May Day, and it was a national demonstration in Italy. And it finally made the TV news, for example, the national TV news, and everybody was there from Naples, Venice, Turin, Rome, Milan, and stuff. We picked in order to ensure that no shops would be open on May Day, as the labor code, not the labor code, but the civil code says in Italy. But in spite of this fact, the governor of Lombardy was still in office. Unfortunately, we were trying to kick him out. But had let all the shops in the downtown open, and nearby Duomo and stuff. So we picketed, all the chains, Zara and others, and we shut them down. And the same, all supermarkets closed in the city. So May Day was respected. I mean, we went on the trial for that after that, for these pickets, but it was a significant success. And the May Day itself was more than 100,000 people. It was very diverse. The Pink Samba Band from Turin was there, and it was a great moment. And San Precario had just been born as 2 months before, on February 29, 2004, as a rallying icon of the precariat. That is the social subject that experiences precarity and is subjected to precarization of working conditions. And San Precario, so we use an intermittent day. So San Precario is celebrated every 4 years, and like we invented. It was 3 people, including I and Stefano, this guy who wrote the prayer. And we did like this little saint card that it's very much in use in Catholic Italy for various saints, Saint Francis or the other fucking saints. And that proved immensely popular. We gave out through the years 100,000 of these, and in Milano, you can find them in every office, because every office has a contract worker, a temp, a precarious worker, and she knows that its only hope, so to speak, is San Precario, in a way. And so what is San Precario other than an icon? So it's the icon of precarity in Italy. It's in my opinion, in 2004, we should have gone to a national San Precario organization. There were discussions in Venice in October, where the saint was put in parade at the movie festival. Naomi Klein was there, also Tom Robbins and stuff, all people in Italy. There was this assembly, there was this proposal to do like a national network of San Precario points that would help out the people with the union lawyers, with labor suits, and start organizing our generation. Okay, start organizing the precariat. Is it the social subject? Is it the class? Is it the social stratum? Is it the category? Is it a generational concept, a cohort? Who cares? We need to defend these social interests that nobody else is defending. But that assembly failed, and so basically San Precario remained the Milanese force with allies in neighboring cities, in Lombardy and in Piedmont, in Bologna, but in my opinion an opportunity was lost. My intention, since I founded the first collective that did May Day, was to create the union of precarious people, and that would, or at least an organization, an advocacy organization that would advocate the rights, the welfare rights of the precariat. Okay, and that was my aspiration. That could speak, to the media and in national social bargaining as a voice for the precariat, okay, for young precarious laborers. And this to this day has never occurred. We just had a labor reform in Italy that basically it's done in the name of the precarious, but it totally neglects their rights. It doesn't do anything for them, while worsening the conditions of other categories of workers. So we missed an opportunity, and that's it. I mean, since 2005. In 2005, Euromaiday went European in 20 cities, including Helsinki, Hamburg, Berlin, Barcelona, Malaga, Sevilla, L'Aquila, Ljubljana. Later, Vienna also joined, also Torno in the Arctic Circle. And then we did these two Euromaiday assemblies in London and Berlin. In London with the Middlesex Declaration of Europe's Precariat, and in Berlin to organize the Euromaiday across all these cities. Paris took part, and most especially Liège and Brussels. In 2006 we did a major action in Brussels. 2006 was the year where French society rebelled against the CPE, the new contract for young workers, and it was a major victory for the movement. So that year we did our first European action in Brussels. And I mean, I don't know, I think like for the European level we can speak in another question. What I just mean to say that since 2005 I've been almost exclusively committed and engaged in the European projection of May Day and in the transnational diffusion of, if you want, the theory of precarity, the discourse of precarity, the ongoing social, political and theoretical discussion on this issue.
Good. Let's get back to the question about the organization or creation of an institution for the precarious issues later, but maybe now should we go then to the moment now? How do you see, okay, we see that precarity has become more pressing in Europe, and also you said in North America. And I would say for my account that I see, especially in Spain, that many social movements have precarity as one of basis for their politics, even though they are not precarious movements in the sense like Euromaiday was. So what do you think? Okay, first about the situation and the change that becoming more pressing, but also do you see that there is formation of some kind of precarious subjectivity going on?
Well, that is to say, we kind of predicted the Great Recession would occur. And I'm talking about the European part of the Euromaiday network, what is now Precarious United, and we easily predicted in 2008 that it would lead to mass unemployment, especially for young people, and this is what we're now seeing. You know, a third of Spanish youth, 40% of Greek youth, 20% of Italian youth are unemployed. I mean, as you were saying yesterday, austerity maximizes precarity, cuts in social spending affect disproportionately precarious families, because young families have a hard access to housing, have a hard access to schooling, don't earn enough income to provide for their children. I mean, this is like the European and North American social question. Of course, the sources of precarization in Europe and the United States and Canada are different, in the sense that the problem in Europe has gone on at least since the early 90s, okay? with the diffusion of the gospel of flexibility. I mean, young people have started getting a raw deal, so postponement of regularization, cuts in benefits, and so on and so forth. And it has been caused by the duality of the European labor market. That is, that some insiders that now in the Great Recession see all their benefits cut, that is the organized working class, pensioners, that are still protected by welfare entitlements, and then a whole bunch of a growing force of outsiders of this Fordist agreement that still exists, that is women, immigrants, young people, okay, that don't have access to labor protection. So in Europe, this is the problem, and it's a two-tier society or a three-tier society. In North America, the problem is more recent and is due to indebtment of students to pay for their education, and afterwards the job market doesn't provide salaries or regular jobs providing medical care, and so these guys are forced to return to their parents. I mean, like the Italians never leave their families. Americans, who were like the freest youth in the world, are forced back to their families. I mean, and this is really, you know, the concern, the shock behind Occupy Wall Street. Most of the core of Occupy Wall Street activists are students that have no future. So precarity is basically about no future for Western youth, okay? So what to do about it? What to do about it? The answers as an activist, part of the anti-globalization Genoa Rostock movement, was to try to create a movement that would pressure politicians, the European elites, and most especially private employers, into granting what's ours, okay, what's needed, the commons we need, the services we need, the money we need to create and share. Okay, so I think, I mean, frankly, the influence of Euro May Day peaked between 2005 and 2008, okay, and since then it has declined. I mean, the Euro May Day network is almost non-existent today. There's still May Days for precarious people around Europe, but and they're not linked by a common organization as before. I mean, if you note, there is a participation of precarious collectives, of which there are many in Spain, in Ireland, in every single European kind of precariat in Finland, and so on, and so on, flex workers, super flex in Copenhagen, and so on and so forth. Participation to the major struggles of the 2000s, okay. I can think of May Day in Aachen, Aix-la Chapelle, where we protested against Sarkozy, Merkel, Barroso, and Trichet. We had many arrests. We successfully disrupted their little summit on May Day, on top of that. We participated, on a lesser scale though, in Rostock, but we took part instead massively to the climate camp movement in England, and then to the climate protests in Copenhagen. And then we tried to organize with the No Border camps a participation in the first European demonstration against austerity at the end of September 2010. Which ended in disaster. 400 people got arrested. The unions didn't want to have anything to do with us. Also, the ones that were our friends stopped the union organizer to help us from police attack. I mean, the union leaders wanting us out. And what we were saying was simple: fuck precarity, fuck austerity, and smash ECOFIN, that is the Council of European Economic Ministers, what is called now the Troika. I mean, destroy the Maastricht regime that is bringing sorrow, unemployment, and it's destroying the very nature of the European project, which was supposed to bring peace and prosperity to the continent, and instead is bringing austerity and division and xenophobia.
And also that was in the center of the recent Blockupy actions, or the also you were taking part of that and affected the whole picture. But that was, I think, the latest idea of overcoming the national borders, the national struggles in Europe. Mm-hmm. Against Austria.
Yes. I mean, in the Euro Mayday movement, where I mean, let's review. I mean, Slovenians, French, Swedes, Finns, Norwegians, Greeks, Germans, Spaniards, Catalans, you gotta say it, Italians, and Dutch people even once, Turkish people even. That was great actually, because Mayday protests in Ankara and Istanbul are strong. I mean, we try to overcome, okay, national traditions, so to speak, because that was the problem. It's not so much about being patriotic. Everybody gives a fuck about the nationalism or the national identity. Who cares about that? But the fact is that, say, anarchism is widespread in Catalonia. It's not widespread in Madrid. In Milano it's present. It's not significantly present in Rome. And in Finland, autonomous Marxism is strong. It's not strong in England. You know what I mean? That is, Trotskyites are strong in France, but not elsewhere. That was the problem. The plurality of ideological cultures belonging to this network, and more like the traditions of political mobilization, the national traditions of political mobilization around social issues. So that, I mean, it was kind of hard to break this mold, the way you discuss, the way you portray labor conditions. So, I mean, definitely, I mean, there was a consensus that immigrants, queers, and precarians, let's call them this way, had to be united, and this was our subject, the radical revolutionary subject. There was some resistance to the fact that we had to make demands, although this resistance was overcome, and so we ended up with a basic set of demands being basic income for all, the right to unionize for all, the closure of detention centers, and use solely in Europe. That is, if you're born in Europe, you're a European, you have a right to a European passport. Basically, these were, and usually there was also, since many of us were digital activists, so to speak, media activists, freedom of information, sharing and copying and distributing and so on and so forth. So, and queer rights for all, okay? And so, I mean, we definitely support gay marriage, and it's been discussed now and then. And so two camps came out, basically. One camp was, okay, we get together to organize this May Day, we gotta make it strong and fast, but then each national chapter or uses like the common slogans and stuff, the materials for their own things. I mean, so you have your May Day which is common, but it's more played out during the year in your own thing. You don't share common campaigns, so to speak, during the year. I mean, you do assemblies, you share what you do, but you don't. And this camp was didn't want to go beyond the network, didn't want to acquire a name. And so Networks United of Europe was was even voted in an assembly, and it was voted that, you know, there shouldn't be a name for the organization, but just they should be considered a network. Okay, so and another part instead, I thought that we really had to become a European subject, able to pressure the European Parliament, the Commission, and the European Central Bank, able to organize major actions against. By the way, we were at the Bank of England. That was, I mean, unfortunately, I mean, the cop that killed Ian Tomlinson has been set free of all charges. I mean, a moment of thought for that, for the many dead that during this decade were procured by the security state. Anyway, so like these are the group, mostly was Italians, Belgians, and Spanish. Wanted to have European coordination, wanted to hit Brussels, wanted to emerge as a common lobby, if you want. The wealthy have their lobbies. Fuck, the precarious gotta have their lobbies too, and they have to use by any means necessary, get welfare rights. I mean, design a new welfare which is able to fund autonomous initiatives, economic, social, innovative activities, and is able to provide monetary income during time of inactivity, unemployment. And this is crucial now. Rather than basic income, income continuity. Okay, this is a principle which is more politically viable today, and it's goddamn urgent because people are almost starving. I mean, we saw in Greece that austerity is becoming a health problem. Portugal too. Ireland, which had the Troika cure. I mean, we are not, so to speak, I wish we had the force of 2005 today, you know, because today, I mean, it's really needed. So we're kind of starting back from scratch, from Blockupy. Blockupy is relaunching a European movement against austerity, against cuts, against, you know, these monocratic, oligarchic management of social policy in Europe, dictatorial almost. And so there will be, as you told me, as we expected, as we discussed in Frankfurt, we decided there will be a European Assembly in Spain, probably Madrid. You're telling me now they will be in early November. So after the end of the May Day network, we as United Precarious, we decided last summer to join the Occupy movement. We knew that would be the occupation of Liberty Square, and we wanted to be, of course, we had been completely struck and fascinated by the Indignado movement, which today is taking a new force. It's spreading. We wish that the Indignado movement doesn't forget that the European projection is vital. I think like they tried it on October 15. We participated. We kind of called for a massive participation. We kind of occurred in Brussels, which surprised everybody. Nobody thought there would be so many people in Brussels. Demonstrate against the banks, against the fact that there is unconditional billions for banks, while there is savage cuts for society, while there is $30 trillion stashed away from taxes of the top 1% of the financial elites. So fuck, we definitely, you know, I think the Indignado movement tried to Europeanize its struggle in not in a smart way, so to speak. I mean, I think there were Spanish students in every city, okay, but in a way it seemed as if they were supposed to lead. But that doesn't work, of course. I mean, you have to federate. I mean, although as much as we respect the great force of the Indignado movement, the Indignado movement has also to respect other great national traditions of struggle, like the French, like the German, like the Scandinavian, the Italian, whatnot. I mean, we are able to take hundreds of thousands of people on the street. It's not only Spain can do it. So I think they had this great campaign contra el pacto dell'euro, which was cool, and so they should not renounce for this. So I'm really happy that they're doing this assembly in Madrid, and I think that if we take the heat that the Spaniards are taking to the Rajoy government, to the Barroso Commission, to Draghi, European Central Bank, as we tried, but in a way we failed to do in Frankfurt, man, we are on board. I mean, especially the European elites are scared by popular unrest, and they have never been brought to account by a major political demonstration. Frankfurt was a start. Let's keep doing it that way. I mean, there must be hundreds of thousands, millions protesting against authority. There is a possible alternative. This recession can be cured in a matter of months once austerity policies are reversed.
Yeah, I agree with you with the fact that it doesn't lead very far, the idea of importing an idea of being indignado or being occupied, that there has to be always alive this perspective of the struggles in different countries, what Italians can do because they have their historical framework of struggle, and Spanish people have their own one, and we cannot just erase that, even though we want a European coalition of movements. So we need to have these differences in mind, but we also need something that can unify the people without a doubt, something that some kind of shared, some kind of common struggle, that it's not questionable if everybody is suffering from this. And of course we are.
But I don't know. But the Finnish, I mean, I want just to close the end. The Finns, the Finnish Euro May Day and the Slovenian Euro May Day were also very much Europhile, if you want to say. I mean, the fact is the Euro May Day now, Euro sounds like a bad word, right? I mean, in the sense, I think this is like the major reason behind it, is that too many activists still think Europe in terms of financial dictatorship or colonial domination or imperial domination. I think this approach in the 21st century is wrong. Definitely Europe has fallen prey of financial interests, of bankers, no doubt, but, it's a project where the multitudes and the precarious classes and immigrants, queers, minorities stand a better chance to advance their rights than in the nation state. So the nation state is nativist. The nation state, you don't speak the language, you're not a national. If you're not a national, you're not a resident, you're not entitled to no rights. European is an open identity. Anybody can join. I mean, okay.
So you mean it's a problem that in the movement there isn't very much of thinking that would think it's possible for Euro area to be different, that the Euro closing into a nation state.
Yes, if you look at the current, institutional setting of Europe is a bit like the Holy Roman Empire, in the sense that it has kind of concentric circles of sovereignty. It has the border controls of Frontex and the Schengen Agreement, that's one area. There is the European Union with its free market agreements with Turkey, with Ukraine. I don't think they have it with Ukraine, but other countries. But anyway, the European Union of 27 members, right? So this occurred on May 1st, 2004. This was a major enlargement of Europe. the European crisis that we have today, it's also because Western Europe doesn't want to include in the Euro club the new Eastern members or the old Southern members. I mean, definitely we think beyond the Eurozone. We want a European Union, we want a democratic, we want a Euro that it's issued on a base of socialized banks to promote employment and equality, not to promote financial accumulation and deflation, and as it's occurring now. So, I mean, we want to participate in the creation of a true European civil society where debates are cross-national, because the environment is cross-national, because the social rights are transnational. I mean, look at immigrants, look at the fact that there should be a European minimum wage at the very least. I mean, if we stay closed in national borders, we can, you know, even burn down the parliament. I'm not in favor, but even if we did, we wouldn't fucking have the euros needed to finance an eco-social policy that cannot, you know, that it's the only remedy, an expansionary fiscal policy that can drag us out the recession and actually change the economy and society, the way energy is produced, the way people are cared for, the way knowledge and education are given access to. Okay, that's my concern. I think, like, for example, the European Charter of Fundamental Rights could be used as a tool, you know. I mean, we've had the European Court has endorsed scabbing in Scandinavia, Estonia. This is a very dangerous precedent. You know, like, they're putting poor immigrants against natives. We've seen it also on oil platforms. We gotta stop that, man. We gotta create a European minimum social standard, which can only be the basis for, quotation marks, European civilization, as they call it. They can only be open to the Mediterranean, to Arab revolutions, to, you know, to a changing world that is asking for more justice, more equality. You know, so
you think, we were talking about this yesterday, you were thinking, if I'm summing this up, okay, austerity is the maximization of precarity. You think, if I'm correct, that austerity could be or anti-austerity could be the common struggle for movements in different European countries?
Most fucking definitely. I mean, what we sorely need is a broad social and political front fighting against austerity. Like, fighting against cuts, against savage cuts that are deflationary, they end up being self-defeating because they crush the economy so bad that tax revenues actually decrease, so they're counterproductive, okay? And of course, they increase massively unemployment. I mean, this is like, we gotta reverse this trend. And there is a broad coalition that can be built from liberals to radicals, from reds to greens, from anarchists to autonomists, to defeat the 1%. Defeating the 1% means defeating austerity. It means defeating the bureaucracy and their mistaken ideology, I would even dare say theology, of the market. Okay, what's the market? It's the fixing of the labor rate. Okay, what's the market? Is toxic assets being packaged as AAA securities. And now those same rating agencies want to dictate the terms on which social spending must be issued in European countries. Should the Greek people suffer because some greedy bankers have fucking spent it all in reckless gambling over overinflated real estate? I mean, this is the issue of the time, and it's an issue of social and economic justice, goddammit. So, the progressive part of the population, what's considered left, they shall not resign because another course of European economic and social policy is possible. We just need massive mobilization. It's not simple, but this time mass mobilization will succeed, man.
So how do we fight austerity when we get this maximum mobilization?
I mean, first of all, there has not been a giant demonstration in Brussels, okay? We have to occupy the European Parliament. And with some parliamentarians would be with us, okay? And there we have to create the European Assembly of precarized, unemployed, discriminated, unequalized society, okay? The assembly of the European 99%, a permanent assembly, an assembly that by consensus decides over measures, countermeasures against austerity, that creates a constituent act, if you want to use this word, because, I mean, we have to destroy existing European institutions. They're crumbling by themselves in a way, because they're proving, for 2 years, they've proved enormously ineffective in addressing the crisis. If anything, they've got it in worse, okay? But we have to create, okay? Actually, the urgency today is to create. Neoliberal capitalism is zombie capitalism. It has failed on environmental, financial, ethical, moral, social grounds. But the alternative is not being fought for. It's not advanced. There is not a collective we that goes there. 20,000 from Spain, 20,000 from Italy, 20,000 from France, 20,000 from Scandinavia, 50,000 from Germany. The Brits were not, and we are there, and we stay there, and we say, we are the European people, we are the 99%, and we decide. And the European Parliament has been substituted by a parliament of precarious people, okay?
Yeah, but...
this is, to me, I mean, if you ask me today, this is what I would try to do. I mean, if this seems like daydreaming, at least like a fucking massive demo, like angry demo in Brussels, calling all precarious, all immigrants, all workers, even the old age pensioners, anybody, disabled people, very important, to Brussels, all together, against cuts, for a European welfare state, fuck.
So, but for example, we have now in Spain a convocatory for 25th of September for occupying the Spanish Congress.
Sure.
And how do you think this links? Okay, we can see that this is counterproductive in a way that it's in the framework of the national struggle.
I mean, but that's, I mean, I don't want to sound polemic. I'm also a polemic person, I must say. I mean, when the Indignado movement was at its strongest, like in '68, society seems to go left. On the verge of revolution, they do the elections, Pompidou wins, the party of de Gaulle. That is what society had protested against. What happens in 2012 in Spain? Rajoy wins. I mean, the conservatives. I mean, the thing is, the bastard can claim to have some kind of popular backing. Actually, financial advisors are saying on the financial press that today even elected governments are not sure of their position. So, in my opinion, there is a chance that, you know, the Indignado mobilization, the mobilization in Madrid at the end of September will succeed in making the Rajoy government fall. They will be forced to resign. I mean, it will be tough, okay? It will be tough, and there will be a lot of suffering, that's for sure, because Rajoy won't leave power so easily. But I think he can be forced out. But that still leaves us with the question. The terms to Spain are not decided by Rajoy, they're imposed on him. And so the next government will have to be subject to the same conditions. So if we don't fucking do it, if we don't seize the chance, you know, of like this change to the left that there has been in France, if we don't impose a political change to the left, I mean, the existing institutional level, it's not something that, you know, it's our enemy and shit. The fact that Sarkozy no longer there, it's important. The fact that Merkel is still there, it's even more important. Okay, we got to dislodge her, you know, and we got to dislodge the technocrats. We got to dislodge the right-wing governments, and we got to dislodge the technocrats. That's the only way to do it. So, my recipe, simple as that, is red-green governments all over Europe, and a massive social, angry, rageful social mobilization of the juvenile precariat in Brussels to demand what's ours. It worked in Paris, it's gonna work in Brussels, okay? To demand welfare rights along the lines, a European minimum wage, the right to free higher education, and the right to income continuity. These are, I think, like the four basic demands. That, you know.
But also connected with the struggle for free movement in Europe.
Most definitely, most definitely. I mean, I was thinking...
Many other things that have to do with the precarious life form, the life form that's,
I mean, detention... I mean...
under question every day.
My first demonstration before Genoa was... in '98, to close down the detention center in Milano. I mean, and May Day has always had as this basic demand, and we've always participated in no border actions, in the sense that this is a disgrace, this is a barbarity, I mean, of European civilization, like treating as criminals people that just are seeking asylum, are seeking a better life, okay? And it's even more uncivilized, the fact that their children, they're born here, they're treated as sans-papiers. What the fuck, man? You're born here, you're like Balotelli, okay? Simple as that. I mean, Balotelli had to wait until 18 years of age to get his passport. This is a fucking disgrace. I mean, only un mulatto, l'Europe du métissage, les précariats, je parle en français parce que le discours de la précarité est mieux en français, et ce que je veux dire, les précariats est métis, le métissage du précariat va faire les luttes, est en train de faire les luttes contre l'austérité, contre l'État sécuritaire, qui défend les banquiers. Okay? Cioè, in a sense, it's already a reality. I mean, Europe's youth is multicultural, it's mixed, it's secularized, and it's subjected to the same working conditions. Soon, this social subject will coalesce into one. I think we can no longer talk about migrants. We have to talk about European minorities, okay, like African Americans, okay, they're doubly discriminated, they're doubly exploited, but thanks to the best of, you know, socialism in Europe, environmentalism in Europe, feminism in Europe, our social humanist traditions, and also thanks to the effect of popular culture, you know, a mixed youth is coming into being. That mixed youth is the revolutionary subject in Europe today, okay? Precarity is their condition, austerity is their enemy. And fuck, we will win this struggle. Because, like, neoliberalism today is against us, is against history, is against the tide of history. While in 2001 they were riding high, okay? The dot-com crash just occurred, but man, it was the time of total neoliberal hegemony. So we were crashing the party. Now the party has crashed, okay? So it's time when we get our act together. I mean, this is like what's missing. So a huge Occupy movement in Europe. What we propose is real democracy in Europe now. Fuck, and it's simple, and it totally chimes with the Spanish experiences.
I think nowadays it's clear, and we all know that precarity doesn't only mean precarious labor, that the precarity resides, or you can see it in every part of life. Do you think there is some undermining done by the old trade unions to try to take the precarity issue back to being only a labor issue? The fractions of trade unions who accept precarity as an issue and take it into their policy.
But I mean, I think it's a labor and welfare issue, but no more than that. Okay, let's say to speak. Okay, I'm in fact, because I mean, precarity is a condition. Precarious are individuals. Precarious workers, can there be a subjectivity? Okay, existing unions don't want that. Is the precariat a class in itself? That is it objectively a class? I think so. Okay, personally, I think so. Is it a class for itself? That is, does it have its own party and union representation? Political and social representation? No, it's not a class for itself. Must it become a class for itself? Yes. Will the existing institutions of the left resist that? Totally. Okay. Are they trying to hijack in precarity? Because precarity has been on the mouth of every single Italian politician over the past 4 years at least, since the 2008 elections, for sure. Okay? And definitely in France and elsewhere. Definitely in France and Spain, I know that for sure. But, okay, have they done something for the precarious? No. They've only used them as a way to attract votes, as another social category to milk for their consensus.
This
okay.
would be my next question. Do you think that during and through the anti-austerity politics, the struggle against austerity politics in Europe, can that be also the process of creation of a new institution for precarious people, by the precarious people, for the precarious people, which is taking the place of the old labor struggles that is now equivocally, I say, wrongly in the labor unions, because as you say, they are only using it for publicity.
Yeah. I mean, in Italy, I mean, I know some precario has been trying to do a precario strike. They've been talking about it for a year, so they've not managed to do it. It's complex again.
In Madrid, there has been now for only a few months opened a Oficina Precaria, a place where there is getting together people who can help each other, for example, with lawyer help, negotiation of wages, which are at this moment in very individual level. So they are working with individuals who need help. But I think it's slowly getting bigger, and also, of course, there is the Plataforma de Afectados por la Hipoteca. So that's
yes, housing has become, of course,
they're stopping evictions of hypothecaries.
V for Vivienda, V for Vivienda. That was a great movement, totally incredible movement.
And actually, they're not only stopping the evictions; they are occupying many buildings that are whole empty buildings owned by banks.
Oh, wow! Yeah, hear them. Yes, that's awesome. Yeah, we should occupy all buildings of banks around Europe. I mean, this would be a great strat. Yes, no, definitely. I mean, I know it does sound like an afterthought, but you know, when I was trying to limit the discourse, I don't like so much when precarity becomes existential. Okay, yes, of course. I mean, it brings anguish that you don't have a job. How the fuck am I gonna live? You know, it's not that. But you know, it doesn't become. If it doesn't become a collective concern, a collective action, it's not relevant. So to this, I would just add, it's also a gender issue. I mean, welfare issue, it means that it disproportionately affects women in the sense that, of course, they cannot, in Europe today, the right to have a, you know, maternity leave is no longer existing, okay? This is incredible. I mean, I know Precariat alla Deriva and other feminist precarious collectives are working on this. I mean, definitely, I mean, women's social rights are endangered in Europe, okay? So when I was speaking, it's a labor question and a welfare question, it's this. I mean, how generational and gender aspects refract through these major issues. It's what May Day is about, okay? So it's fundamental, this. I mean, that we try to represent, not to provide a media representation, but to represent the interests of our social class, instead of trying to defend everybody else's rights except ours, okay? Because, I mean, they're not building public housing for young people, student fees are rising every day, rents are impossible, inaccessible for us. It's impossible to have prematernal care and child care at an affordable rates in Europe today. I mean, these are the issues, fuck. And I think, like, if we get queers, immigrants, and the radical youth of Europe together, fuck, we have a force, man. And we gotta speak to the part of the radical left that is not hostage of conservatism, of traditionalism, that doesn't have vetoes. We just have, radical democracy is a method. And it's the method discovered by the Seattle movement, by the Indignado movement, by the Occupy movement. We gotta use it for our social ends, okay? This, I think, the lesson of this last year, the lesson of the Tunisian revolution, man. It's a never-ending struggle, but there's gotta be regime change in Europe, as it's occurring in Syria today.
So going back to the new institution for precarious issues.
Ah, yes, this is important. Sorry, I got to. So these collectives you were naming are like embryonic attempts to create mutuality among precarious people. The welfare we have in mind is not the top-down welfare that's existed, or the workfare welfare that is existing now, that forces people, treats them as dependents, tries to discipline them into some kind of correct behavior. No, welfare today is just funding the peer-to-peer energies of the people, the collective energies of solidarity, of mutuality, of caring for one another, or of doing collective gardens, collective energy projects, collective education projects, and stuff. What I see is that these spontaneous collectives that have been born over the last decade around precarity, to me, they could be the communes of the future. That is, the communes of future welfare. That is, a network of European cities, of European experiences, exchanging money, people, and being funded by Eurobonds. I mean, no problem. And who buys Eurobonds? The European Central Bank, if nobody wants them, okay? No fucking problem. We need inflation today, okay? And so that's like the, if you want, the biosyndicalist welfare society I have in mind, you know, and we have the means of production are in our hands, are our computers, and the commons, the water, land, the air, we are there to defend them. With that and some cool finance, we can do a lot, okay? People are tired to delegate. That's so true in politics. It must become true of also of social issues, and soon, and that's the third step, but I think it's very advanced, eventually also economic processes will be based not on corporation or financial markets, but on some other kind of economic units of production.
Actually, there is at least a rumor or some news published that in Madrid, the Quincem, the Indignados will open 2 offices of an ethic bank that would has
cool.
its own form of
Wow.
functioning. That would be something, like, to put it very simple, I don't know much about it, but you can use it as a place to put your money. And all the
collect loans for you want to renovate your social center.
Or
You want sure.
Not only loans. I think also if there is extra amount of money that doesn't get got out of the bank, that is being used for common purposes. That is
Socialization of banking is crucial. I mean, Banca, man, has got to be socialized, not nationalized. It's incredible we let these fuckers collect public funds. These private agents collecting private funds, they go down a hole, man. I mean, we got to use that money to socialize financial activities. I mean, it's a bunch of crooks. I mean, definitely a network of mutual banks, you know, funded by indignado people who can do worse than them, and it's actually gonna fund the right type of entrepreneurialism. Because, I mean, also startups, you know, useful startups don't get funded today. I mean, fuck, you know, especially in Europe, you know, you have a brilliant idea, you have a brilliant way of a new solar panel, man, you're not gonna get money, man. That's demo grants. This is fundamental, you know. We gotta have the means. We have the knowledge, we gotta have the education and the money to be free to create the other society we were fighting for in Genoa. I think we can create it now. I mean, but we must be ready to abandon our ideological certainties. We shall renounce to fundamentalism and extremism. We have to be flexible in this, yes, not on the labor market, but in politics, because we have to create broad alliances. You know, this is not about black bloc, white overalls, pink blocs, anarcho-greens. This is about defending society and creating the means for a new one, okay?
Okay.
I'm done.